Hello friends, I'm Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Monday Shenanigans, Monday Q&A. Monday, I just got home and I'm exhausted. I've been up since 8. I drove up to Tennessee to do some blind, super secret motor testing with Joshua Bardwell today. I had an absolute blast. And yeah, that's sort of the main thing that we're going to talk about because the results are fascinating to me. Very kind of expected. I've talked a lot about how much placebo there is in FPV here on the live streams, and good Lord, was today a great example of that. So yeah, we're going to talk about that among other things. This is a Q&A stream. Feel free to ask any questions that you've got in the chat. This is my full-time job. If you'd like to see this content continue, I need a little bit of help from everybody. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com. Patreon helps me out the most. $3 whole a month will get you in. Tons of benefits for that. It's only 10 cents a day. Yeah, you're gonna love my nuts. My Patreon. Here's what it looks like. Yeah, like I said, Patreon helps out the most. Tons of benefits, lots of technical articles up there on the Patreon page. You're going to get email notifications when I live stream so that you don't miss them, since YouTube's notification system is just full-blown broken. You're going to get Facebook notifications as well. Like I said, bunch of technical articles. You're going to get access to... burp. You're going to get access to a super secret Patreon-only YouTube playlist with, like, sketchy flying that I don't want public. Patreon-only live streams that are pre-recorded on there, half-done edits that I've lost track of, lots of good stuff, almost 90 unreleased videos on there. You're also going to get full access to the Discord channel, and there's a bunch of cool stuff going on there. The stick ends made it back. Both stick end kits went out and stayed out for a long time. I accidentally used Alec Dvornik's old address. What this is, for those that don't know, I purchased every single stick end that exists for M3 and M4, and I made a big kit with them. If you're a patron, you can check out this kit like it's a goddamn library. And really, this is the only way to know which stick ends actually work for you. Looking at a picture of a stick end on a website accomplishes absolutely nothing. I was so shocked as I got the stick ends in and started using them. I was so blown away by which ones I actually really liked and which ones I really didn't like. And that's the feedback that I've gotten from pretty much everyone that has received this kit. So yeah, that's kind of a highlight of of getting full access to the Discord. But there's a bunch of other stuff going on. It's just a really cool group of people that you're gonna get to hang out with. There's a Patreon only thing on there called Livestream Live, where you guys can like post links and stuff that I can look at during these live streams. And there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure that I'm forgetting that are benefits of joining the Patreon. But the big thing, to be really honest, is that you're supporting a dude trying to do this full time, because it's tough. There's like a dozen guys who got into FPV super, super, super early in the game and kind of got their foothold, and they're full time and have been for a long time. I'm one of the sort of newer guys that is trying to make FPV as a full-time thing kind of work, and it's a struggle, but there's a lot of positives to it. For my mental health, the sort of cocktail of of mental illnesses that I have, this is a great gig for me. But yeah, I need your guys' help. So click thumbs up, hang out, leave a comment, do all the things that YouTube likes, or if you have a couple extra dollars, head on over to CiottiFPV.com. There's an Etsy store with a bunch of really fun stickers and some random hardware that you might need in your micro builds. There's a Fiverr page where you can just basically buy my time and work one-on-one with me. That's going to save you quite a bit of time and money. The folks that have worked with me through Fiverr have literally saved themselves hundreds of dollars because they stopped buying the wrong stuff that catches on fire and wastes them time. Teespring with very cool shirts like this one here. If you're a car guy, you'll understand this shirt. And then I have a whole bunch of affiliate links which are free for you to use. We Bleed FPV, Newbie Drone, FPV Cycle, Amazon. Yes, Amazon. When you're doing your Christmas shopping on Amazon, hook a brother up. Click my Amazon link before you check out. You got to click it every single time before you check out. So maybe if you use bookmarks, just replace your bookmark with my Amazon link. Maybe go on all your friends and family's computers and replace their bookmarks with my Amazon link. Or just tell them, yo, help my gangly buddy out. Get FPV, Oh My God's website, Flywoo, Banggood, Camera Butter, and AliExpress. I have affiliate links to all those websites. There are websites that I can't get affiliate links because I don't have enough subscribers. Other folks have affiliate links to those websites, such as RDQ and Pyrodrone are the first two that come to mind. Use their affiliate links. Like, when you're ordering stuff online, think about your friends that are creating the content that you watch here on YouTube for free for you to watch, right? And hit their affiliate links. It makes a huge difference, and it is literally free money. You can still use coupons and discount codes and all that shit. Dude, Tom Kayak with $101 super chat. Holy hell, brother. One-upping Joshua Bardwell's $100 super chat at the very beginning of the stream. Joshua says, thanks for helping me test motors today. Have a great stream. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. Come on, scroll, world. Jeez. Thank you, Tom Kayak. Tom, I don't recognize that name. If you're new, amazing welcome. Stay a while and listen. What video game? And then I also saw Marcel off Axis. Oh my God, come on, will you please? There it goes. Marcel off Axis FPV with the 3 Canadian Californian dollars super chat. Thank you, brother. Good Lord, we're rolling already. Look at you guys. In the chat, if you want to talk directly to me, all you have to do is type CiottiFPV, which nobody has done yet. What? Here it is. 6x1FPV did it. When you type CiottiFPV into the chat or anybody's name, you have to spell it right, but it highlights in orange for just that person, and then they know that you're talking to them. Kind of like, you know, in the real world, when like you walk up to someone and say their name and then start talking to them. You wouldn't just like walk up behind somebody and just and expect them to reply. So type people's names into the chat and you'll get their attention. Or you can do a super chat like a couple of these beautiful bastards have done so far. Yeah, it's all good. If you don't type my name into your chat comment, I'm going to assume that you're talking amongst yourselves. I respect your guys' privacy, and I just don't want to kind of sit here and read the chat top to bottom. So, yeah, if you think I'm ignoring you, it's your fault. It's because you didn't type Ciotti. It's because you didn't type CiottiFPV or do a super chat. I forgot this on the mailbag. This is a HackRC. We did mailbag yesterday on yesterday's stream. This is a HackRC F7 flight controller that I'm going to be putting into my prototype frame over here with the HackRC ESC. So we're going to really give HackRC a hell of a workout, because the whole point of this frame, this prototype frame of mine right now, is to break it. So I'm gonna just absolutely hammer the balls off of it, and I'm really interested to see if the ESC and or flight controller hold up. This HackRC stack here is as cheap as you're really gonna find from any of the big 3 US resellers. So I'm hoping that this works. This HackRC flight controller has a lot of good things going for it. It's got an MPU 6000 gyro, which is like time tested. And then it's got big old pads with good spacing in between the pads. So this is, in theory, one of the better flight controllers that's available for a reasonable price, which is a big deal nowadays that all the costs on these things have gone completely nuclear. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I will say this, the little rubber grommets that they've included are a little small. I'm not going to run these rubber grommets that this thing came with. I'm going to run my own rubber grommets. These rubber grommets that they shipped with it are M3 outer and then M2 inner. The holes in the flight control, and these will work, especially once you put it in here and you sandwich these guys down. These will absolutely work because they'll fatten up a little bit once you've cranked your stack down a little bit. That being said, if you have the M3 to M4 outer diameter, M3 inner diameter grommets, which you probably have a couple of them floating around. If you don't, I think I actually have some on the Teespring, on the Etsy store. That's actually what I'm going to use, because the holes in the flight controller appear to be M4 holes. So yeah, that's what I'll be using. I'll be using M4 to M3 grommets in this guy. And yeah, maybe we'll work on this on Friday. I don't think I'm going to work on this tonight. I don't think I'm going to make it through the whole live stream tonight. On my 4-hour ride home from Joshua's house, because of Atlanta traffic, I started to get really tired, and that's kind of a problem for me because my stomach does not agree with caffeine. But I would rather have a stomach ache and get here alive than die. So yeah, I had a caffeine-based drink, and there's things happening inside my body. So I can't commit to a full 2 hour. Maybe it'll be fine. But yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to have to take a grumper at some point here. So forgive me. I'm going to give it the old college try though. That's what happens when I say douchey things. I vomit. All right, what's up, chat? Who was first? McConnell Studios was first. Thanks again, Joshua Bardwell, for the extremely generous super chat. Thank you, Marcel Alfaxis, for the super chat. Scrolling down a little bit, I got tagged by Frank Nicholas dropping the CiottiFPV.com link. Thank you, homie. 661FPV says, we definitely need an Infinity Loops plus CiottiFPV collaboration live stream. I need to figure out how to have guests on. Jesse from tinywhoop wants to come on to Whoop Wednesdays, and I promised him I would figure out how to do it, and then I just got busy. No, I didn't get busy. I got sick. I got COVID. I got the flu, whatever the hell that was 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I need to figure that out. It might be as easy as just doing it through Discord or Skype or Zoom. I just need to do it with someone to test it. That's what she said. And yeah, see if it works. But once I figure that out, I'll have everybody on. I don't care. Go-Kart Mozart says, although I gotta be honest, I've been on a couple of Infinity Loop streams, and I don't get the feeling that, I don't know. I don't want to talk shit, but I didn't get the feeling that he wanted to be friends with me. So I don't know if he would want to do that. But if you guys want to see that, I'll certainly reach out to him and ask him. But don't hold your breath, because I don't know, maybe whatever. I'm a very sensitive person, so maybe I was being overly sensitive. Maybe he doesn't care about me. Maybe he thinks I'm his best friend. I don't know. But I didn't get the vibe that he was very interested in me as a human being in the past. But whatever, that's fine. You know, people are allowed to be individuals, and people are allowed to not like me. I rub a lot of people the wrong way, right? Like, people that are religious hate me because I say goddamn all the time. I say Jesus Christ all the time. And I'm a, heathen atheist, which I don't like. I mention a lot. So yeah, and I curse a lot, and I talk smack, and I'm very real, and some people don't like that, and that's okay. That's allowed. So yeah, people are allowed to not like me, but yeah, I just want to set your guys' expectations. Go-Kart Mozart says, I bought socks and underwear with your affiliate link. Thank you, brother. I hope the underwear swaddle your balls in comfort. Oh my God. And now you know why some people don't like me. Bob Noxious says, what's up, Collective and CiottiFPV? Michael D says, hello, CiottiFPV. Love the footage from the HD0 Mobula 6. Will you be sharing the video after it's processed? Oh, wait, forgot. YouTube will butcher it. Yeah, YouTube will. I'm going to do some fun stuff with the HD0 Mobula 6. Namely, I'm going to put it's going to become a cinematic rig. After how easily the frame and the canopy broke doing some, like, for me, light freestyle work upstairs, I'm just not going to run it as a freestyle rig. It's a little too heavy. I can kind of hear it from... I can hear everything upstairs. And I can hear how bad crashes are through the floor. And when that rig crashes with those extra 4 or 5 grams of weight, like, it sounds like a car crash up there. Like, when the analog tiny whoops hit the ground, even if they come all the way down from, like, the 15-foot or whatever the hell they are ceilings... like, it makes a noise, but it doesn't sound horrible. When I was crashing, the like 3 or 4 times that thing is hit hard, it's like it hits the ground, and I'm like kind of dialed into that because I don't want to break stuff, right? Like, this was a thing in my apartment. Like, I paid really close attention to the sound that Tiny Whoops made as I've built them at varying different weights. I got pretty dialed in on, like, the sound that they make when they hit, and, like, that sound is directly proportional to, like, the amount of energy that they're kind of exerting. And for me personally, like, I want my tiny whoops to not knock expensive shit over or break expensive shit, right? Like televisions and vases and stuff like that, right? And like, that rig, like, the sound that it makes when it hits, to me at least, is like break shit sound. So And I mean, just with the way that the canopy broke, it's just, I just don't think it's a good idea for me. I don't think it's the right rig for me to be flying freestyle with. Not to mention that the video coming out of it is not like that much better than analog. And I would have to assume that you guys would rather see better flying on a 4 to 5 gram lighter rig than slightly better video. If that's not true, well, you know, tough shit. But for me, at least, it's much more fun to fly the analog rigs. You know, that's like a 25%, closer to 20% difference in weight. That's a big deal. Blow that 20% up to a 600 gram 5-inch rig, and that 600 gram 5-inch rig now becomes 700 plus grams. It's a huge difference. A huge, huge, huge difference. With tiny whoops, you got to get the grams out, and you got to think about percentages, right? A 2 or 3 gram weight difference in a tiny whoop is a big percent change. So you have to use that percent change rather than, oh, what's 2 extra grams? Like a lot on a rig that's, you know, sub 20 grams dry. So always keep that in mind, because that's really, really important. You can feel the difference in a tiny whoop. You can feel almost a 1 gram difference in a tiny whoop. It's wild. Speaking of feeling differences, we're going to be talking in a minute when I get caught up on chat about how difficult it sometimes is to feel differences with really eye-opening day of blind testing today at Joshua's place. But let's get caught up on chat first. Michael D says, oh no, we got that. Tom Kayak, thanks again for the extremely generous super chat, brother. Stay, please, hang out. You're in good company here. Brandon's Baked Beans dropping the CiottiFPV.com link. Thank you, homie. B-Man FPV with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. He says, yo, I want to throw new motors on the stock Mobula 6 with 25,000 kV. I use the GemFan 3 blades, Weebleed 0702 28,500 or Tiny Whoop 0802 30,000 kV. And how would the Moblite 6 fare on the 25,000 kVs? Thanks, bro. Great question, B-Man. So I've run all the motors at this point. Like, I don't know if there is a kV of Tiny Whoop motor or a size of Tiny Whoop motor. I can't say size because I haven't run the 0603s, but I've talked to enough people that have run the 0603s, and they're not what we want. I've run all of the 0702s and all of the 0802s, and those are the right sizes. That's just been hammered out. And then I've run KV. I've run 18,000 kV, 20,000 kV, 22,000 kV, 25,000 kV, 27,000 kV, 28,500 kV, and 30,000 kV. All right, so I've run them all. For me, that's a big disclaimer, okay? For me, the way that I fly, the way that I want to fly, which is like hard freestyle, like I want the tiny whoops to do what my Glide 5-inch rigs do. And that's absurd, like they never will, but I want to get it as close as possible. The 0702, 28,500 or 30,000 kV when they come back in stock. Currently, the 28,500 Weebleed FPV 0702s are the ones that are in stock. At some point, tinywhoop.com will get their 30,000 kV 0702s back in stock. I tested them back to back and I couldn't tell a difference. It was not a blind test, but that's good enough for me. There's a chance that the 30,000 kV is actually a bit much. 28,500 kV is awesome. You're going to love it. It's probably going to be too much for you, to be honest. It is. These tiny whoops with all that kV are hard to fly. I have put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of batteries into these tiny whoops in acro, in small houses, to try to get to just figure out, to just get better, to be able to fly the damn things inside. I cannot stress that enough. It is extremely difficult. If you build one of these tiny whoops and you're not hundreds of batteries into a big power tiny whoop, turn on motor limiting. Motor limit them way down to like 70% until you get comfortable, and then kick it up to 80%, and then kick it up to 90%. That's what I had to do. When I started on 25,000 kV 0802s, I had to motor limit those all the way down to 22,000 kV to be able to fly inside the house acro and not just constantly crash. And if you've seen any of my Whoop Wednesdays, I still kind of constantly crash. It's because I'm trying to do ridiculous shit now. I'm trying to throw it 15 feet across the house into a dive gate that's this big, right? Like what I try to do with the tiny whoops constantly gets more nuts. The way that I push myself is to crash a lot, because the more I crash, the nuttier shit that I'm trying to attempt, and the quicker that I get better. And this is the approach that I've had in instructing folks for the past like 15 years. Before FPV, it was motorsports. And like, yeah, I have always found, and all of my students have found this to be true, that when you push yourself a little bit beyond your limit of your capabilities and you crash or spin or whatever it may be, with motorsport, it's a little bit more difficult. You got to make sure that you're spinning the car in spots that are safe. With autocross, it's fairly safe, so I was able to push people pretty hard. Track days, I would have to be like, you got 3 corners where you can push yourself beyond the limit. The rest of these corners, don't do it, because there's concrete that's close that you'll not like. With FPV, one of the beautiful things about FPV is 99% of the time we can push beyond our limits and crash. And it's funny, we're not in the quad, and we should be flying in spots where we can crash, right? Like there's that 1% of the time that we're flying somewhere kind of sketchy where somebody might walk past. That's not your opportunity to push. That's where you want to be flying safe, right? So yeah, keep that in mind, because that's sort of my list of requirements for a motor. If you're going to use the GemFan 3 blades though, B-Man, you're not going to want an 0702. The 0702 motors are at home, well, the higher KV ones at least, are at home on a bi-blade. And it's for 2 reasons. It's because the stator volume, the 0702 stator volume, is really not enough to crank the heavier tri-blade propeller. But it's also because of the KV. The KV is also too high for the 3-bladed propeller. If you go 0802, now you've got enough stator volume for the tri-blade propeller, but 30,000 kV is an awful lot. I do have a rig that has that exact setup, and it was a monster at the Jungle Gym. So that's a really interesting combination if you're gonna fly it around jungle gyms or outside. So if that's what you're gonna be doing with it, maybe go that route. If you're gonna be flying it in the house, don't go that route. The 0802s are a little bit too heavy. The 0702s on the bi-blades are fucking magic. It really, like, it's... And it's funny because, like, when Jesse and I were talking a couple weeks ago, he said the same thing. Like, there's some kind of a magic to the 0702s that have when they have enough power. So yeah, there you go. Long answer to a short question. Thank you so much for the generous super chat, B-Man. Hopefully that answers your question. Oh, wait, no, the last part of the question. How would the Mobilite 6 fare on the 25,000 KVs? I am not a fan of the Mobilite 6. I did not have any luck with that Diamond ELRS AIO, and a lot of folks in chat have had terrible luck with that AIO. So I would say stay away from it. There are a couple of folks that have had a fine time with that Diamond ELRS AIO, but I see many more people with multiples of that AIO blowing up on them. And that's, I'm not playing that game. The whole, like, AIOs are a pain in the ass as it is. The last thing I'm going to do is get one that you have to direct solder to, because that's a pain in the ass. And then it seems to be the least reliable of them. So it's just, I would highly advise to stay away from the Mobilite 6. It seemed that Diamond ELRS AIO seems to be very noisy. So the higher you go in the KV, the more problems you're going to have with it. 25,000 KV is maybe not so high that you have issues, but you're really pushing your luck. And I just don't think you're going to have a great flight experience with that. It's really hard to fly inside an acro. It's really fun, and it's an incredible challenge, and it's going to push you to your limits, and you're going to crash a lot. And from the folks in chat, I mean, I've heard at least 20 blown up Diamond AIOs from crashes in chat, and that's a lot, man, because, yeah. Kiz Bartlett says, I'm sure Jesse loves you. Don't get hung up on people's vibes. FPV attracts a wide range of people, and with it comes a wide range of personalities. Is Infinity Loop's name Jesse too? I didn't think that was his name. Michael D says, are you going to turn the Mobula 6 HD0 into a tinywhoop, mini tinywhoop with a 75 frame on larger motors? Definitely not a 75 millimeter frame, because that's going to add weight, and weight is the enemy. Definitely not larger motors because of the same thing. On the 0702 30,000 kV motors, it has plenty of power. What I'm going to do is put it into the fractal frame, because it's got the carbon fiber brakes, so that's going to allow me to crank up the PIDs and turn down the filtering. And it's also, well, I'm going to try to put it in there. I don't know if the camera is going to mount in the little TPU thing, but I am going to try. And then the other cool thing will be that the camera will be down lower, and there will be no ducts in view. Even on the regular canopy, there are no ducts in view. I think that camera is a much lower field of view than the Runcam Nano, which does have ducts in view on the analog rigs. So yeah, no ducts in view is not necessarily it doesn't matter, because it doesn't have any ducts in view on the regular setup, but the camera will be down lower. And the plan for that rig is to chase, there's a local group of RC car people that have the drift RC cars, and they get together at a spot that has a bunch of simulators, actually, which I've been meaning to go there to mess around their simulators. Yeah, they run their drift cars around, and I'm hoping to go there with that rig and get footage of them, and then dump it into Premiere, and hopefully it's good enough quality. I'm really excited about the tiny lifters, that being able to carry around the Insta360 Go 2 with stabilization, like that's going to be even better for them. But the HD0 rig, which was very kindly sent to me by FPV Exchange, Support FPV Exchange. They have supported the shit out of me over the years. Yeah, that rig is kind of destined for that. I'm thinking of it like so the tiny lifters are going to be like chasing these little miniature drift cars with a lifter. Like it's a more cinematic flying style. This HD0 Mobula 6 is going to be like chasing drift cars with a 5-inch freestyle GoPro carrying rig. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see the difference between the footage between those two. But yeah, definitely not 75, definitely not bigger motors, because there's no reason the only reason to go up to 75 is for more runtime. And I don't care about runtime, because tinywhoop batteries are very cheap and very quick to change out. And then, of course, bigger motors, the only reason to do that is for more power, and I don't need more power. It's got plenty with the 0702 30,000s. So, yeah, good question, brother. YouTube just did the thing, scrolling back up to try to find my spot. Great Southern says, what's up, CiottiFPV? Hello, gangly gang from Australia. There we go. Morton Upshot says, no love for 1002 22,000 kV. No, because we don't need more power. Like 1002 is more, in my opinion, is more of a motor for toothpicks. We don't need the amount of power that 1002s have for tiny whoops. Tiny whoops are for flying indoors, and the lighter the motor, the better. And the 0702s have plenty of power. So yeah, the 1002s, like, it's great that we have another motor option, but they just don't make any sense for tiny whoops, because we don't need more power, and we certainly don't need more weight. So yeah, 1002s, in my opinion, are for like outdoor rigs, toothpicks, or I guess if you wanted to build a big power 75 millimeter rig to fly outside. But in my opinion, yeah, I don't know. My opinion kind of shifts with what you fly outside. Yeah, I haven't come to a... So far, my favorite thing to fly outside is the 65 millimeter Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop, which is just a Mobula 6 with these 0702 big KV motors. Because when I fly something that small outside, I want to find all the tiny little gaps and shoot those tiny little gaps. And that rig does that better than these others. I can't find anything that these 1S toothpicks do well, other than be really quiet. But the Tiny Whoop is really quiet too, so I would rather just fly that outside. Which is a good thing, because then you've got one rig that you can fly both inside and outside, and that's one set of muscle memory that you can lock into your brain. So you are going to get much better as a pilot flying an 0702 Mobula 6 inside and outside than flying that rig inside and then flying a 1S toothpick outside, and then you've got your 3-inch rig, and then you've got your 5-inch rig, right? Like, we want to, if you want to get better as a pilot, some people don't care about that, and I love that. I'm very jealous of that, actually, because that allows you to just have fun. But if you want to get better as a pilot, one of the best things you can do is reduce the number of rigs that you've got and build multiples of those rigs so that you can really be rough on them, and then when they break, just throw it aside and grab the next one and keep flying. And then fix that original rig that night, the next night, wait for parts, yada, yada, yada. Hello!
Hey, baby.
How are you?
How was your day?
Good. I'm exhausted, though.
Yeah, me too.
You gonna be asleep by the time I'm done?
Depends on what.
Wow. Get you one that says that to you. So I might not last until midnight, so we'll see. Because I'm tired. Well, because of that too. I'll talk to you in a bit. Okay. Love you. Kiz Bartlett says, that's why I include crashes in all my Whoop videos. I always want to show that beyond the edit, crashing is a regular thing. Yeah, me too, Kiz. FinFPV actually is who kind of turned me on to how cool it is to put crashes into freestyle edits. I used to just remove them all because I just assumed that people wouldn't want to see them. Like, my thought process was, if I'm going to put an edit up, I want to show you the best stuff. I want to just have back to back the best possible stuff out of, like, kind of respect for your time, right? I want to show you the coolest shit so the whole time you can be like, wow, damn. But FinFPV started to do a couple of flight edits for me. And he would use my crashes as transitions. So, like, I hit a branch and it starts spinning, and then you can cut to the next to another clip of me flying around again. And I really kind of fell in love with that. And then a couple people commented, like, I love that you put the crashes in. It shows that, like, you pro pilots are not just infallible, basically. And that really got me thinking, and, like, I love that. I mean, out of laziness, I love it because it's an easy, quick transition. But also, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, we see a lot of pro pilots edits that are just completely polished and there's not a single crash, and it's like, wow, they must be really good. Most pro pilots crash a fuckload, like a lot. You could almost say that, like, the willingness to crash often and hard is kind of what separates the really, really, really good pilots. Because, again, like we talked about earlier, like, that's how you push yourself beyond the limit. And that's how you kind of get better. So, yeah, that's a good thing. Good call on that one, Kiz Bartlett. Brandon McBean says, read Infinity Loops up there. Hey, there he is. He says, I don't want to interrupt. When can we talk about our friendship? Brother, I didn't mean to start anything. I apologize. I should have probably kept my mouth shut. But I tried to preface it with, I'm a commonly overly sensitive person. So, and I prefaced it with, like, it's totally could be me being too sensitive. And it sounds from your comment like it is. So I apologize, brother. I didn't, yeah, it's all good. I thought that I prefaced it enough, but I have a feeling somebody messaged you and said, like, yo, Ciotti's talking shit. So thanks a lot, guys. But yeah, it sounds like we're cool, and I love that. I shouldn't have. I don't know. Kiz Bartlett says, I think Infinity Loops and CiottiFPV need to cross swords and get the relationship kick-started. 8-Bit FPV says, can you be friends? All right, here we go. Michael D says, wouldn't the 1002s help with the weight of the HD0? So the 0702 30,000s have enough power. So there's no reason to go any bigger. And like, by going bigger, you're going to hurt the situation because you're going to... So the problem with the HD0 Modulus 6, in my opinion, for me, the way that I fly in this house here, blah, 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 is it's too heavy. So the last thing that I'm going to do is add weight. The biggest I should say this, the biggest problem is that it's too heavy. I built that rig, so I flew the rig on the included EX0802 19,000 kV motors. Awful. Nowhere near enough power and too heavy. I then put EX0802 30,000 kV motors on it, and then it had plenty of power. It kind of had too much power, but it was still too heavy because those are the same EX0802 motors. Then I put it onto 0702 30,000s, and it's still a little bit too heavy, but they definitely helped because they brought the weight down another almost 2 grams. And they still had enough power on the biblades. So, like, the end, right? Because we've brought the weight down as low as we possibly can, and we still have enough power. If for some reason I wanted more power, I would go up to the EX0802 30,000s rather than going all the way up to the 1002s, because that's just adding a whole bunch more weight, which sort of is the problem. So yeah, that's kind of the whole story on the Modulus 6 HD0. You guys might want more power than me. To be honest, I doubt it. I really don't think that any of you guys, if you got a Modulus 6 HD0, I really don't think that you would want or need any more power than the 0702 30,000s, because like every time I let somebody fly one of these rigs on the 0702 30,000s, they're like, holy shit, this thing rails. Like, it really makes a lot of power. The HD0 rig is weighted down a little bit, but it's not weighted down that much. And quite frankly, like, I think it makes good power. So yeah, like I said, I love the 1002s. More motor options are a great thing, and I've been screaming from the rooftops for more motor options for the last 6 years for micros. So believe me, I love that we have more motor options, but I can't find, for me, I can't find a rig where the 1002s really make much sense, because I would rather have the 65 millimeter Ultimate Freestyle, whatever, and then jump all the way up to a 3-inch toothpick, so that I only have to develop a muscle memory for the tiny whoop, which works inside the house and in the garden and on jungle gyms. And then the 3-inch toothpick is for really hurling it around outside. Big power. It carries around a Vista, so great video quality. And then the rip squeaks for like basher 3-inch stuff. So yeah, I wish, and I say all this not having tried the 1002s, so keep that in mind. But the 1102s, I tried in a couple of different configurations outside, and I didn't like them, and they didn't have enough power. So the 1002s don't make any sense. I have tried the 75 millimeter tiny whoops in a million different configurations: 0803s, 0802s, 0702s, 1102s, and a whole bunch of different KVs, different frames, different batteries, 300 mAh batteries, 450, 500, 600, 550. And I can't find anything that the 75 millimeter rigs do. Infinity loops is actually one of the reasons that I've spent so much time on the 75 millimeter whoops, because he fucking rips and he absolutely loves them. And like seeing that, I'm just like, yo, there must be something there. Like he is too knowledgeable and too good of a pilot for there not to be something there. And I have now built a 75 millimeter rig that is lighter than what he flies, and it still just didn't do it for me. And that really speaks to, it kind of speaks to the placebo, which we're going to talk about. I keep saying we're going to talk about it, but we are, I swear to God, of the blind motor testing that I did today at Joshua's place. And like, there tends to be setups that for whatever reason click for each one of us. This is why I try to preface, like, and I hope, I don't know, on one hand, I'm like, am I doing this too much and is everybody sick of it? But like, I feel like I need to, because I know there's new people coming into the live streams all the time. So I really try all the time, like, before I'm going to give you guys my recommendations or my opinion or answer a question, to say, like, for me, right? And because, yeah, like, I am different. Like, when people hire me through Fiverr to work one-on-one with me on build planning, specifically on build planning, I have like 30 questions that I ask them. And those questions are specifically designed to figure out, like, how they fly, where they fly, how hard they crash, how often they crash, what they crash into, all these specific things, so that I can cater this build to them specifically, because I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, thanks for your money, here's my build, have a good day, bye. Like, that's like, that makes no sense, right? So I think this really speaks to that, right? Just like, for whatever reason, everybody's brain works at a different speed, or like, I don't know what it is. I have a feeling it's like 50 different things that will make your brain connect with a specific rig. And I try my best to kind of dial into that with this build planning. I've been doing this for an awful long time. I've seen a lot of the gear that works, a lot of the gear that doesn't. I've talked to tons of people. Like, this is the shit that I love. Like, the one of the big things that I've absolutely fallen in love with from day one in this hobby is the ability to customize these things, and the hunt to find the absolute perfect combination of parts that perfectly clicks with your brain and literally makes you a better pilot. What I think that Joshua and I saw today with this blind motor testing is that with 5-inch rigs, we are at a point where, like, all of the low-hanging fruit, all of the, like, big gains are gone. And I really do feel like with 5-inch freestyle rigs at this point, that you can close your eyes and click on a frame and click on a motor and click on a set of props and click on a battery and click on definitely click on an ESC, definitely click on a flight controller, and get a rig that flies like 95% as good as like my glides that I have spent hundreds of hours refining. And like, this is a good thing, man. Like, this is a really good thing, because it kind of means that you can just build a rig that has all the pretty colors that you like the best, and it's gonna fly fucking awesome. You know where we can really see this is bind and flies. Those of you that are old school heads, do you remember how awful bind and flies were 5 years ago, 6 years ago? It was like a joke, yo. It was just like, oh, you want to get into this hobby? You better learn to build, because the bind and flies aren't going to fly for shit, and you're going to like hate the hobby and quit because of how bad they are. Like, today, the bind and flies fly better than a lot of the stuff that I bet you guys have sitting on your shelves. Bind and fix, Marcel Alfaxis says. and yeah, like, and what you want to remember about the bind and flies is those are built to make money, right? Like, when these companies build a bind and fly, they are building it to make money because they are a company and companies need to make money. And like, classically, these companies don't really have great pilots working for them, mainly because they can't afford it. So yeah, I think we're in a really cool place where, like, and I also think that the testing today should be a real wake-up call that we're spending too much time. We're kind of wasting time being so, like, analytical and, like, pouring all of this effort into, like, oh no, this new motor just came out, I gotta get this new motor, it's gonna make me better. Like, getting the new hot thing should almost, I think, be more about, like, this is retail therapy and, like, spending money is fun. It is. Like, just let's just call a spade a spade for a minute. Like, spending money feels good, yo. Like, you know, don't try to drop that shit on your wife or girlfriend or significant other and be like, oh yeah, you spend so much money. Nah, bro. We do the same thing. We do the same goddamn thing. Don't pull that shit with me. Don't pull that with me. Hold on, let me get caught up in chat, and then we're gonna. I gotta dive into the whole to the motor testings today, because today was one of the more mind blowing days in FPV for me. What's interesting is, like, Joshua is like, I might just dump this entire video, because today was supposed to be a review of Rugi's new motor, and where the footage sits right now is basically like, don't buy this new motor. And not because it's not great. Like, it's probably a great motor. I'm almost certain it's a great motor. But where it stands right now is, don't just, whatever motors you've got, those are the best motors. And that's not, I think where Joshua's at is, like, that's kind of not fair to Bob, right? Because, like, he's busted his ass on this new motor, and like, I'm almost certain that it's 0.5% better than the previous motor, or maybe 1% better, or Christ, maybe it's 10% better. But neither one of us could tell. And if you can't tell, is it really worth it? Is it really worth the $100+ that it's going to cost you to get them, and all the time that you're going to spend putting them on and all that? Like, it, you know, better gear is better. It is going to be a little bit better, but, like, is it really worth it? Like, I think that you should be spending that time focusing on flying more, because that's the fun part. But buying shit is also fun, right? And it's each one of us figures out what we're going to do that's fun. So that there's kind of no wrong answers, but I don't know. Super interesting. Hold on. Let me get caught up on chat. Infinity Loop says, I've been here the whole time since Bardwell. All right, cool. So you heard my qualifying my statements. Marcel Alfaxa says, Infinity Loops isn't Jesse Perkins, though. It sounded like you were confused earlier. No, you guys were confused. I was talking about Jesse, and then I was talking about Infinity Loops, and then somebody said Jesse in reference to Infinity Loops, and I questioned them on it. Abraham says, when did IGO 90% of my weekly edits were crashes? Check out IGO 2 week 14 edit for the most crashes possible in 1 minute. No repeats, and that was only half of the crashes for the week. Nice, Saber. I love that. Veritas Huza says, Maggie says she loves you. Sweet. We love you too. In a manly lumberjack kind of lone wolf way. But Brandon Zwapien says, yes, lots of crashes. Abraham. Michael D says, I was thinking of more runtime for cinematic with HD0. Nah, man, when you add weight, you lose runtime. Like, just kind of period. Unless you've got a situation where your motor, your stator volume is not enough for the propeller. If you have an overpropped scenario where, like, so for example, an 0702 with a tri or even a quad blade, that is an overpropped scenario where the motor is basically like not going to be happy. The motor doesn't have the grunt and the power to speed up and slow down that propeller quick enough. So like the PID loop, to make corrections, like the rig, when your rig goes into turbulent air, it wobbles. The PID loop's way of fixing that is to speed up and slow down the motors. If your propeller is properly matched to the stator volume, which a biblade is on an 0702, it can effectively speed the motor up to where it wants to be and hold it there, and then slow it down to where it wants to be and hold it there. It's doing this either 4,000 or 8,000 times a second. That's what 4K and 8K refer to in your PID loop cycle time. So minimum 4,000 times a second it's doing this. If you then take that 0702 and you put a quad blade 1.2 inch propeller on it, the response time is going to go down. The motor can't spin that propeller up quick enough, so it's going to be constantly so it can't spin it up where it wants and then slow it down to where it wants and hold it. It's going to be slowly spinning it up, and then by the time it gets there, it's going to have to slow it back down. So it's going to be always in this state of either acceleration or deceleration, and the motors don't love that. Like, that's when the motors start to heat soak, and when magnets get too hot, they perform like shit, and it's just, you can feel it. You can just feel it in the air. You don't have a crisp PID tune anymore. You have this kind of sloppy, wobbly mess. So, yeah, that's the only situation where the adding weight thing that we were talking about. Michael, or runtime, right? That's the only situation where you can have a lighter weight rig that doesn't have better runtime than a heavier weight rig. And it's just about picking the appropriate propeller for the stator volume, which we've figured out. 0702s are biblades, 0802s can crank tri-blades. 1002 would probably be able to crank a quad blade, but why? The only reason to go up to the bigger motor is for more power, and we just don't need we don't need more power. And in my opinion, I don't need more power. How about that? I don't think you guys do either, though. I am Gross 98 says, what would you say is the difference in feel? Oh, here we go with feel. Between 0702 Weebleed 28,500s versus the Happy Model 0802 25,000. I run the Happy Model 0802 25,000s on the Mobula 6 budget build and considered 0702 for a change. So the difference in feel is a light rig versus a heavy rig. The 0802s are grunty and big and like gnarly. And so the 0802 rig is going to feel like a 700 gram 5-inch freestyle build. The 0702 rig is going to feel like a 600 gram 5-inch freestyle build. And I'm not even I'm not even exaggerating that. Like, Joshua's rigs that I flew today are 700 grams, and then the first two batteries of the day were with my 605 gram rigs, and then the last battery of the day that I flew that you guys saw in the intro was my rig. And it's a very similar kind of difference. Like, I loved the 0802 25,000s for a long time, and in some ways I still do. But flying acro in the house is so difficult. And for me personally, I have found that the 0702s lowering the total weight makes a huge difference. I crash a lot less frequently, and I just don't need the extra power of the 0802s. I don't actually think that the 0802 25,000s have more power than the 0702 28,500. I think in terms of power to weight ratio, they're about the same. The 0802 rig is going to have more mass, so technically you're going to be able to throw it over stuff a little bit more easily. I don't really find myself throwing these rigs over stuff in the house. Maybe if you're flying in a big warehouse or something like that, the 0802s might be better, but man, I am so blown away by the high KV 0702s. There is just a real special magic to them. And in Maggie's old rental house, I literally started to crash less. That was the one big thing that I noticed that I was like, wow, that's kind of unarguable with the 0702s, that I was literally crashing less with them. So yeah, and they're pretty cheap. So I would just say snag them and go for it. It's one of the cheapest upgrades you're ever gonna do in FPV, and it's gonna be immediately noticeable. Dingles says you could enter the Infinity Loops contest for next week and then turn down the prize like a Chad when you win. What's the contest? I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't watch much FPV content anymore. When I am trying to wind down, I used to, like, my whole life used to be FPV. My entire YouTube subscription list, everything I would do all day, every day, every minute that I was not working at my project management jobs, I was just completely all FPV all the time. Now that this is my hobby for 8 to 10 hours a day, when I'm done doing FPV stuff, I'm watching car-related content, I'm watching sim racing content, I'm watching random sciencey kind of content, and like I just don't watch much FPV stuff anymore. I've caught a fair few of Infinity Loop streams, which is awesome. I love that. I love watching other streamers. But yeah, I don't know the contest that's going on, and there's not, like, other than Joshua, like, and even Joshua's stuff, I don't watch all of his stuff. There's pretty much nobody in FPV whose stuff that I watch like every single week anymore, which is kind of sad because I used to love that. I used to really love just like watching everything that somebody puts out, because you get to watch like them grow and learn, and you get like the inside jokes, right? But doing this full time is incredibly time consuming. Like, if you talk to anybody doing freelance work, they'll tell you that, like, yeah, it's great to not have a boss, but it's tough to work 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, every day on the same thing. But thus far, I still like it better than working my PM jobs. So I'm just going to keep going for as long as I possibly can. Come along with me if you'd like. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com and click all the goddamn buttons, and I'll keep doing it. Six is going to say that's a lot of words to say that 75mm sucks. It doesn't suck. It just for me and the way that I fly and the tricks that I try to do and the whatever, it just doesn't click in my brain. It is unarguable that Infinity Loops makes it work, and he flies tighter stuff better than I do. I'm 99% sure that he flies on a shitload more batteries than I do, which, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Like, I hate to break it to you because we talk a lot about gear, and I know a lot of you come here to ask me questions about gear, but gear doesn't really, like, in terms of being a good pilot and pulling off the gnarliest shit, gear really don't matter. You could probably take a brushed whoop and, if you put enough batteries in, nail the most insane shit ever. Maybe not a brushed whoop, because they didn't have the amount of power that we do now to do like inverted stalls and shit like that. But I'll put it this way. You could take a 6-year-old 5-inch freestyle rig and, with enough batteries, put out content on par with all of the pro pilots. So yeah, gear really doesn't matter. And believe me, I hate to admit that, because I spend an awful lot of time hemming and hawing and thinking about gear. It does make a little bit of a difference, but stick time is like 98% of the difference. And yeah, that guy puts in some batteries. The one live stream I watched, he must have flown like 40 or 50 batteries. I was like, holy shit, I'm doing this wrong. Because like what you guys see me fly, like 4 batteries every Whoop Wednesday, like that's kind of it. And I'm actually trying actively right now to fix that. I've been trying to fly 5 tiny Whoop batteries a night every night. I'm like 3 nights in. I already missed a night though. Last night I didn't fly. But yeah, I'm trying to fly tiny Whoops a little bit more. Because why not? It's like a half an hour of my time, and I have the gear, and these Mobula 6s are like hilariously durable. I used to not fly a lot of tiny Whoops because they weren't really durable enough, and I got sick of fixing them. And I got sick of direct soldering motors to the newbie drone boards. But now with the Mobula 6 ELRS, the motors being plug and play, I'm much more willing to really go in and bash the shit out of them. So I feel like I missed a super chat, or maybe I didn't even get to it yet. Oh, looks like I'm right there. Oh, wait, no, here we go. 8-Bit FPV says, we need a 65 versus 75 millimeter freestyle battle, CiottiFPV at Infinity Loops. I'll just spoil the surprise. I would get the shit beat out of me. Like, straight up. Not even kidding. Heads is a way better pilot than me. Like, full stop. The end. So, there you go. You just saw it. Sleepy CBR with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, homie. He says, watching it work, sticking it to the man. Hell yeah, brother. I Am Gross says, 6 1, I'll make a new build. Since it's getting cold, to use the Weebleed FPV motors, especially because he's a great supporter of CiottiFPV and Infinity Loops and the Whoop community. Yeah, very true, man. Weebleed FPV has been an incredible supporter of mine over the last, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. So, yeah, hook that guy up. Buy his stuff. It's also really good stuff. Like, I love recommending his stuff because it's awesome. You know, you guys that have been around a long time know that, like, you guys are what pay the bills, not the affiliate links. I learned this from Joshua, actually. And basically, like, build a business model where your viewers are your main chunk of income, and then just by that happening, all of your reviews are honest, because the people that want the honesty are the people that are paying your bills. I don't make much from affiliate links. I make very little. So why would I care? Like, and yeah, that just sort of makes sense. And to be honest too, you guys are going to catch me. Like, if I start spouting off bullshit, like, you guys in chat are just as good pilots, just as good builders, just as smart, if not smarter, if not better, if not, so, like, I kind of can't because you guys are too smart. Like, if I had a channel that kind of pandered to new people and just, like, everybody, I could probably get away with it, but I would feel I'm not playing that game. It's just not what I'm doing. Tom Kayak says 700 is high, isn't it? Tom, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions. I'm going to assume that you're talking about 5-inch freestyle rigs. 700 for most people is actually pretty light. The weight creep that has happened with 5-inch freestyle rigs over the last couple of years since DJI has been unreal. I am, like, horrified by how many people are flying 800 plus gram 5-inch freestyle rigs. It is ridiculous. Over, like, at 800 grams, in my opinion, and Joshua's opinion for the record, 5-inch freestyle rigs fly like ass. Yeah, sure, you can put a big enough motor on it and you can fucking fling that thing over 18 football fields. And if that's all you care about, I love that for you. Like, you do you, and you have a blast doing that. But other than that, everything else, in my opinion, about the flight experience is dog shit at 800 plus grams. Not to mention that when you're that heavy, the motors are just ruined. Like, there is not a motor on Earth, because we don't have motor shafts that are thicker than 4 millimeters, that can withstand that amount of weight battering into concrete. That's the biggest reason that I fly light, is to make the motors last longer, because I'm a cheap bastard. 700 is much more realistic. I still think it's fat, like, but I'm sort of the exception to the rule. 700, like, on the nose, is kind of considered to be lightweight nowadays, which makes me want to cry. But admittedly, it is hard. It is hard to get a rig to 600 grams. You have to look at each component and be like, is there a lighter component? Is there a lighter component? Is there a lighter component? It's totally doable, but yeah, it takes some doing. I Am Gross 98 says it would be great if you could take a look at the new Meteor 65 frame and compare to the old version. Let us know what you like better. What, I wasn't aware that there was a new Meteor 65 frame. The old one is kind of perfect, so it doesn't break. I mean, that's kind of it. It doesn't break, so like, done. unless the new one is lighter, they're like I don't see a point. I'm looking for it on their website. Wow, they're look at how bad their website is. Like, okay, I guess I won't click anything here because this picture is on top. There we go. Meteor 65, Meteor 65 Pro. So, is the situation that they're just selling a new version of it and they haven't changed the name? If so, shame on you, Beta FPV. I'm so tired of manufacturers changing a product and not calling it V2. It's really bad because then when you buy it from a shop, you don't know what you're going to get. Is that the situation? Have they just made changes and they're just calling it something different? It looks exactly the same to the ones that I've been buying for the last couple of years. Or are you talking about the Meteor 65 Pro frame, the bigger frame? I can tell you about the Meteor 65 Pro frame. The long story short is there are not bi-blades available for it, which is kind of annoying because on these small 65 millimeter tiny whoops, the right setup, in my opinion, is bi-blades on 0702s. And that's kind of it. Like, there's just kind of no reason for it because, like, we don't need more power. We have plenty of power on the lighter weight setup, and the lighter weight setups are going to fly better and be more accurate indoors. That's sort of the end. All that being said, I have one, and I am going to put it onto the rig with the 0802 heavy motors. The 0702s don't have nearly enough stator volume to crank those bigger tri-blade propellers, so there's no reason to put it on an 0702 rig. So yeah, I'm going to put it on an 0802 rig, and then I'm going to fly it around the house. And I mean, I'll spoil the surprise. So you don't, in case you missed that stream, here's how it's going to go. All right. Oh my God, it's got a lot of power. Oh wow, it's got a lot of power. Oh man, it's heavy though. Oh, it's heavy. See how it's sliding out like that? Oh wow, I just crashed. See how hard that hit? Ooh, that hurts. Oh, there it is. Okay, we're up in the air. Oh, see how it's sliding? See how I didn't make that gap? That's because it slid out because it was too heavy. Oh, man, it's so heavy. Oh, it's got a ton of power, though. Jesus, it's got a lot of power. Oh, wow, look, we got a little bit better runtime because it's got bigger battery. Oh, wait, no, it'll be like this. Oh, hey, we got a little bit better runtime. So it lands. Okay, we got another 15 seconds of runtime, but now we're back up in the air because changing tiny whoop batteries is really quick. And the extra runtime doesn't matter. So there you go. That's... like that's just, I'll do it because I'm curious too, but that's what it's gonna be. The problem here is that I have been building and flying tiny whoops for way too long. And like I've tried so many different combinations, and I love doing this so much that like every single time I try a different combination, I fucking pay attention. I'm like, oh, I learned something. Yes. So yeah, but I'm still gonna do it because I also like to check myself and make sure that I'm not talking nonsense. So let me know if there's a new version of the non-pro Meteor 65 frame. But the previous version of the Meteor 65 frame is perfect in my opinion. I've never broken one. So unless the new one is lighter weight, it's not going to be any better. Because the current one is kind of perfection. Kiz Bartlett says the competition is I can freestyle with whoops, but can you? The prize is a new frame. Oh, that's pretty cool. I dig that. I've been meaning to do a tiny whoop edit too. Is there like a time limit to it? License to Drive says the receiver antenna holder you showed last week that holds it out the back below the craft. You got a link. Need to copy some dimensions for my universal T antenna holder, and the horizontal and vertical are done. I don't. Oh, maybe I do. So the ones that I use are a file that I'm sponsored by Brain 3D, and they have one. That's the one that I use, but I think that there's one on Thingiverse. There it is. Here comes the link. This one is very, very similar to the one that Brain 3D makes. To be honest, the Brain 3D one and this one, I wish this was a little bit longer here. I would love to have it have the antenna even farther away from the carbon fiber. Another like maybe 5 millimeters or so. Next time I need those, I'm gonna bug Brian about that and see if he'll change the file around a little bit to just add a little bit of length. Because we all need a little bit extra length, don't we? I don't. I don't know why you guys continue to come back with bullshit like that. I'm Gross98 says, let's get an aviation CiottiFPV heads and OG freestyle shootout with JB Judge. That'd be fun. That'd be very fun. Somatic Cinema's in the house. What's up, homie? I haven't seen you in a hot minute. I am Gross98 with a $10 super chat. Thank you, homie. He says, thanks for making streams and having the community participate. My absolute pleasure. Thank you, beautiful bastards, for allowing me to do so. Hey, speaking of, the streak continues of one new patron for every single live stream for the last, 2 weeks. And it looks like Josh Ford, without even me begging for it, has kept that streak alive. Welcome to the Gangly Gang, Josh Ford. You joined the Patreon tonight. If somebody else wants to join, that's awesome. Or wait until Wednesday to make sure that the streak doesn't end. But yeah, we're on the streak. We're going to keep this streak going until 2023. I can't do anything about it. That's on you guys. I just said that, so don't make me a liar. Somebody, I think one of you guys, I missed it in my emails, but I had an email sitting. Somebody asked at one point, when I was doing that whole spiel, they were like, can I just sign up again? And I was like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Somebody signed up for the Patreon as Cat. There's just Cat. That's just the name. So in my emails was Cat joined your Patreon on the $3 tier. So Cat, thank you for being able to take your little fluffy paws and type on the keyboard. That's very impressive. I'm very impressed. Thank you, Josh Ford, for joining the madness. Stay a while and listen. All right, I swear to God, I'm going to talk about the motor testing from today. Almac FPV says, what's up? But I got to get caught up on chat first, because you guys come first. 661 FPV says, the only new Meteor 65 is the Pro that uses 35mm props. Yep, that's my understanding as well. Brandon Baked Bean says, 661 FPV, they also made a V2, not actually labeled this way, of the Meteor 65 Pro frame. That's interesting. CiottiFPV, it's called Pro. Well, so the Meteor 65 Pro frame, to my knowledge, is the one that takes the bigger props. But look at this. There's a Pro 2. What? Oh, that's a 75. That's a 75. No, that's not it. So, I mean, according to their website, at least, they've only got these 265s. And I was to understand, and I've bought it, and measured it, that the Meteor 65 Pro uses the 35mm props. Oh, look at that. HQ 30. Oh, no. Yeah. This is a 35. Frame is suitable for 31 to 35mm props like GemFan 35mm. Pay attention. HQ 35mm are a little bit bigger and do not fit for this frame. Oh my God. That sucks. But yeah. I don't know. The regular Meteor 65 frame, though, is perfect, in my opinion. It doesn't break, and that's perfection to me. B-Man says, my quads are just under 800. I bando bash to hell, and those F40 Pro 4s take it really well. I had to go with the 50-gram mounts to save the GoPros because I was Best Buy Public Enemy #1. So B-Man is a great pilot. I don't know how often or how hard he crashes. This is one of the other things, right? Like when we start talking about durability, all bets are off. My idea of durability is completely different than somebody else. I expect motors to take dozens and dozens and dozens of hard slams before they explode. Before they wobble so hard that I'm not willing to sacrifice the flight performance. I'm a cheap bastard, and I'm also a broke bastard. So other people have much more realistic expectations. So like when we start talking about durability, it's really important to understand that every single one of us's perception and idea of durability is completely different. So you really kind of can't, unless there's so like, I hate to pick on them, but TBS motors, man, like I know that they sell a lot of them, which has a lot to do with this, but I hear so many complaints about TBS motors being fragile. Maybe it's just because they sell a ton of them, because they spend a shitload of time and effort and money on marketing. But I don't know. It seems to me like TBS motors are kind of fragile. I have a hard time believing that's true, because the thing that fails more often than not is the motor shaft, and all these guys are using the same shit quality titanium in the motor shafts. So I really think that no motors are any more durable than others. Like, okay, one-piece bell, sure, it's going to be more durable, but I can count on one hand how many times that I have had to retire a motor because the bell rather than the motor shaft. And I've got like probably over 100 blown up motor bells. So yeah, I don't know. It's really difficult to quantify durability though. It's so incredibly subjective. And just different people have different expectations, as they should. Kevin Sumner says, you might have missed it, or maybe I missed it. Did you read video comments yet? I did not, Kevin. I'm trying to get caught up on chat so that we can talk about the really fascinating mystery motor testing that I did today. And then if we have some time at the end, I will go to yesterday's live stream and read the video comments. License to Drive says, perfect, thank you. I can take the antenna further away like you asked. Love it. Marcel Alfaxis says, I just use an adapter. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Kiz Bartlett says, videos need to be emailed to Infinity Noops by the 25th of November. I can probably get that done. The video on his channel is called But Can You Freestyle Frame Giveaway? Awesome. Thank you, dude. Michael D says, I'm starting to become a fan with how the Meteor 65 Pro, I just need to get a different canopy. The lock camera angel is PIA. I have no idea what the lock camera angel is. Lock camera angle? I still don't know what that means. Marcel Off Access dropping the Patreon link. Thank you, homie. B-Man FPV says, if we keep the streak till Christmas, 12 hours of Christmas stream in the onesie. I'll probably be in the onesie anyway, because it's becoming tradition at this point. Hey, I'm caught up on this, the chat. All right, so I can't tell you everything, but Joshua said an awful lot on his live stream, so I can tell you a lot of what went down today. I might as well throw some of my flight footage from my glides up for you to watch me railing around Joshua's house while we're talking about this. So hang on a second. There should be 2 batteries with the camera in portrait. Yeah. 2 batteries vertical, 2 batteries portrait. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is my glide. Let me give you a little volume. Okay. So this is just me farting around. So Joshua invited me up to do some blind motor testing. Well, let me actually turn this down because I'm going to be talking. And that's kind of all he told me. He didn't tell me what the motors were. I then had a conversation with Bob from FPV Cycle Rugi, and he told me the motor sizes and the specs and some other stuff, which I'm not going to tell you guys because Joshua didn't, so I'm going to respect that. I'm sure Joshua's video will be out soon. There's nothing groundbreaking, but so Bob did kind of tell me some of the specs. And I mean, I guess you could kind of argue that implanted some ideas in my head, but that actually works against what, like, that should have made it easier for me to figure this shit out. So that kind of, it doesn't really matter. So the testing that we did is called triangle testing, triangle methodology, I think Joshua said. And basically, you test one thing and then you test another thing. And when you test the second thing, all you say is the same or different. You're not trying to quantify, you're just trying to say, did the person in this case unplug the battery, get a fresh battery, and plug it right back into the same quad, or did they switch to the different quad with the different motors? All right. Seems kind of easy, right? Like, seems like we should be able to kind of figure that out. Especially when we look at the difference in the motors. So the third rig is the one on the super mystery pink motors. We're not going to talk about that one because I actually didn't even get to fly that one. But the two rigs that I did get to test, one of them, completely identical builds. One of them was on Zing 2207s, the big heavy bastards. And then the other one was on Bob's new 25 millimeter Imperial motors. I think that's a 2507. It is a heavy motor. It's like a 35 gram motor. The Zing is 33 point something grams. Very different stator shape, right? I don't think it's a 2507. I think it's a 2506 and a half, maybe even a 2506. I'm not sure, but 25 millimeter stator width versus 22 millimeter stator width. Big difference there. Big difference. And so, yeah, put a rig up in the air. First one is just to control, fly it around. Okay. Joshua's rigs are on Hero 8s. It's his frame. It's a 30 by 30 ESC, 30 by 30 flight controller. It's about 700 grams all up weight. 2207, no motor limiting, full power. 250 whatever, no motor limiting, full power. Put the rig up in the air. Holy shit, is this making a ton of power. Actually, the first test we did, I was using Joshua's radio, and I said, yo, we got to bind this to my QX7. If I'm going to have any amount of accuracy here, I can't fly this TX16 transmitter. It just doesn't. The QX7 is the only transmitter that works for my hands. I don't know why, but it just is. I've tried the narrower radios a million times, and I just don't. I hate them. I actually hate them. I don't hate a lot of things. That's not true. I hate lots of things, but I don't admit to hating a lot of things, but I hate it. So yeah, then we got everything. We switched modules into my transmitter. We moved his rigs over to TAER, all the things we needed to do. And then it felt much better flying it with my QX7. Huge power. Huge. I fly 2306s that I have motor limited down to like 85%. Because I find that 5-inch rigs have way too much power, and like I would rather have less power and better throttle resolution. And also, like, with the really big, this is why I don't like 2207s, because they make too much power and they're just too heavy, and there's no reason to carry around weight for no reason if you're just going to scale them down. So different frame than I'm used to, squished X instead of true X, it doesn't really make a difference. The biggest thing was just the amount of power that they had. They flew great. They really did. The motors flew great, and I kind of commented on that. But just tons of power. This is not what you're watching. You're watching my rig. You're watching my Glide on low power motors. Fun fact, it's on one of the other recordings, but when I went from flying those rigs to flying this rig, I took this rig off and I just drove it straight into the ground because my rigs have a lot less power. I got used to the hover point and the power point in these big motor rigs, and then with my rig, like I just drove it right into the ground, right off the rip. So flew the control rig, great. Closed my eyes. I had earplugs in. I had headphones on. I was worried that I would be able to hear the difference between the motors. So I was flying with no sound. Maybe that's not a good thing. I find that I kind of need to hear the rig because there's a relationship in my brain between, like, I don't know. I fly better when I can hear the rig. When I fly so far away that I can no longer hear the rig anymore, there's like there's this weird like latency that I'm imagining in my head. So maybe that was a part of the problem. Maybe it's impossible to really accurately test this because the motors will sound a little bit different, and you need the audio to really be comfortable flying. I do, at least. Maybe you don't, but Joshua and I we've spoken a lot now ever since this test about how the hell do we do this? How the hell do you test motors in a way that's like in a fair way? It's hard is what we're figuring out. So second battery. Well, so yeah, Joshua gives me another rig. I put it up in the air. What I thought that I noticed, so I had a moment flying this other rig when I was cruising along low to the ground where my brain was like, oh, and I just had this little moment of like, oh, what was that? And I thought what that was is I thought that was a different hover point. And I was like, ooh, this one's different. This one has a different hover point. And then I started flowing low to the ground, and I was like, yeah, this rig is definitely different. I can definitely tell that there's that this motor has a different hover point. And I was dead fucking wrong. And then I flew it around some more, and I was like, oh, I think it feels a little bit different here. Okay, great. Joshua didn't reveal any of this to me until after the test, right or wrong or whatever. So then, come back, close my eyes. He brings another one, tells me to open my eyes. Great. Didn't really need to close my eyes, but I just wanted to make absolutely sure that nothing ruined the testing. Then he gives me another rig, put it up in the air. I don't remember. I think it was the same rig again. I don't remember what the deal was, but it's going to start to get foggy in here with some of them. But I think it was the same rig again. And I think I might have gotten this one right. In the grand scheme of things, I was 50-50. I was right 50% of the time, same versus different. But I was also wrong 50% of the time, same versus different. And so with each battery, I started to like. I was trying to figure out ways to quantify it, and I was looking for different things that I could do to be able to tell a difference between these rigs. And so I started to notice like the quickness that the rig would rotate on pitch and roll. Like basically it's not specifically response time because it's also raw power related. What we started to talk about is that the KVs are different between the motors. And that's kind of a big problem. Because as soon as the KVs are different, the hover point becomes different, and the a lot of things change with the KV. And like in the end, one of the things that Joshua and I talked about is that there's just too many variables. To be able to really accurately test this, there's just too many variables. RC Ritter says, did you have GoPro weight on the rigs? Yep, they were 700 grams all up. Hero weight on board. I flew some micros for you guys too. We're gonna watch that. Yeah, there's too many variables, and it also kind of just doesn't matter. Like, you should be picking motors. You should not be picking motors based on somebody on YouTube saying, ooh, this feels great in the air. Like, that's just that just doesn't mean anything. You're not the exact same person as them. So immediately, them liking or not liking the motor has no bearing on you whatsoever. And like, I kind of think that that's what this edit should be about. But unfortunately, this was supposed to be a review of Bob's motor, and if the edit is about that, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird situation that we're kind of in, because like it's very cool of Bob to send Joshua the stuff and like we don't want to hurt anybody with this, and like it's also not great for Joshua to put a video out like that, right? Because like he has companies sending him stuff, and like he doesn't really care about that, but it has to be in the back of his mind, right? But I don't know. That's probably me thinking too deeply about it. But easy. Here we go. Here's some Ripsqueak. This is the 1504 Ripsqueak on 3052 Gem Fans. So yeah, I start to try to notice things, and man, I was after like by like the fourth battery, I was certain that, well, first of all, I thought that he was giving me 3 rigs. I thought that he was giving me the pink motored rig, the Imperial 25mm rig, and the Zing 2207 rig. So I noticed this thing. I thought I noticed this thing with the hover point, and I swore that I could tell that rig apart. So and I thought that was the 25mm rig. And I talked about that, and I said that, and whatever. So then I start talking about like, all right, cool, I can definitely tell the difference between that one rig, and I was dead fucking wrong. I was dead wrong. There was not one rig that I hit every single time. Not to mention, Joshua didn't give me the pink motored rig. He was only giving me 2 rigs back to back to back, and I was sure that I was flying 3 different rigs, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm super confident that I can tell the difference between this one rig. And like, I guess that's kind of a problem too, because now I'm like looking for things with the other 2 rigs, and I think that I'm flying 3 different rigs instead of just 2. But man, is it telling that I was sure, right? To be like sure of any of this is so telling that like there's just so much placebo, and there's just so little difference between these motors. So then I start looking at like this other stuff, like, oh, this rig. So I started to say like, oh, I can definitely, I think I can tell this other rig because I thought there was a rig with really lightweight motors. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call this the crispy rig because when I jam, pitch, or roll, it's like crisp in the way that it kind of attacks the rotation. I don't know which motors are on that rig, but yeah, there's a rig that it feels like the motors are noticeably lighter. I'm pretty sure of it. I probably said I'm sure of it. And Joshua keeps giving me these 2 motors back to back. I think he did like 3 in a row, and then he did like 2 in a row of the same rig, and then like he bounced back and forth. And so we were going to do 30. We were going to do 30 test flights. And I was flying them for about, I was trying to fly them for about 30 to 40 seconds each. Because I didn't want this to go on forever, and it was fucking cold. And you know, to be real honest, like that could have been a part of the problem. Like maybe we just didn't put in enough time. Maybe I got a little bit carried away with like, I don't know. The 2 of us are really struggling to figure out how the hell this happened, because I don't know. On one hand, like I had a funny feeling that we wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but like, I don't know. I think I was really hoping that we'd be able to tell the difference. So I think this might be Joshua, actually. Yeah, this is Joshua flying the Ripsqueak. So we get to the 9th test, And Joshua was like, all right, we can stop the test now. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, so that means that I'm getting them right every single time, I guess, right? And he's like, all right, hold on, wait till we're on camera, and I'll tell you. I was like, all right, cool. And we move the camera around. We sit down and we do our little talking head piece. And that's when he tells me that it's 50-50, which is exactly the same as when him and Kevin, Stinger Swarm, did the ELRS latency testing. And we had a great little like talk on camera about like what the hell. And then Joshua is like, is it even worth it for me to do this? And it looks like that's when the hybrid stopped recording. Joshua was like, is it even worth it for me to do this? Like, if you couldn't figure out, I'm certainly not going to be able to. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm not being the only one here. So then Joshua jumped on it, and it was just as impossible. He was even trying to cheat. He was taking the rig off. I was specifically not looking at the OSD because I was afraid that something in the OSD was going to tip me off. He took them off, and he was looking at the throttle value in the OSD, and he's like, all right, and he even said, he's like, oh, I'm going to cheat, guys, all right, and he took them off, and he put them into a dead hover, and he's like, all right, it looks like at a dead hover, the throttle is at 18 to 19, all right, cool, and then he went and flew it around, he's flying around, he's like, I can't tell, and then so what I did to him, I'm not going to tell you that, because that might ruin his edit for you, but, yeah, he had a much more frustrating time. Like he got to a point, like, I think he flew 5 or 6, and he was like, I'm done. This is miserable. Like, we were both pretty cold. But he was also like, this is really frustrating. Like I'm, and it kind of is. Like, it is frustrating that we can't tell the difference, because how much time have we spent on this? And, like, we've all thought it. Like, we've all thought, and we've all been sure that we've been able to feel the difference between X or Y or Z. And I know that we've talked about this on this stream time and time again. Like, the placebo is strong, yo. And, like, you have to really, really, really work hard to separate that placebo out and be real with yourself and be like, yo, I might not be actually feeling a difference. And, like, blind testing like this, where all we had to do was say, yes, that's the same, or no, that's a different rig. That's all we had to do. We didn't have to say, ooh, this one makes more power, this one feels better at mid-throttle, this one has better throttle resolution. We didn't have to do any of that shit. All we had to do was say, this is the same exact thing that I just flew. And we couldn't even do that. And it was, I was like laughing, and like I was just super fascinated by it. Joshua was admittedly, I'm sure that he finds it just as fascinating, but he was much more annoyed than I was. Which was, I mean, that in itself was really, really fun. Let me get caught up on chat. So that's all I'm going to tell you guys about it. I don't want to, like, spoil the whole thing, although I kind of just did. But, man, really, really, really... And I think this is, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I think this is a great thing. Because what this should, and I'm sure that when he puts this out, I'm going to get just annihilated in the comments, right? Because, oh, who the fuck is this gangly douchebag? I don't know him. He must be a shitty pilot because I don't know who he is. And, you know, maybe that's true. Fine. Hopefully people that are saying that have YouTube channels with content with them flying much better than me, because, you know, if you're going to talk shit on me, you should maybe be better than me. Otherwise, you're kind of a fucking hypocrite. But whatever. You know, that's fine. I don't need to. I'll never... Look, back in motorsport days, I learned that there's always going to be somebody better. Always, always, always. I'll never be the best FPV pilot, and that's great. I love that because, good Lord, trying to be the best at something is one hell of a demoralizing exercise because there's a lot of people on Earth, and there's a lot of people who are younger or have a bigger budget or any number of other things that you're not going to be able to compete with, right? So fuck is that liberating, not trying to be the best at something. But that's not what this is about. Like, if there is somebody else who can replicate this testing and do a proper, this is the key, proper blind testing, not just like, oh, I'm going to do this blind testing. Okay, these two rigs are kind of the same. Oh, this one, the camera is dirty on. Like we had to like sit down and like think about this and like figure out the methodology and like dial this in, right? Like the lenses couldn't be dirty and like we crashed a couple times. So like you got to bring it back. You got to clean that lens. You got to make sure that the propeller is not bent a little bit. Like the battery has to go on the charger, come off the charger. It has to be completely fully charged. The rigs have to be fully identical. Even if they're fully identical, maybe one of the gyros on one of them is a piece of shit, and it's the idle. You know, it doesn't come down to idle as far. There are too many variables. But I would love it if somebody else could do a proper blind test and be able to tell the difference. But I think that what the testing that we did today is really valuable in a lot of different ways. And the main one, I think, is that we need to stop spending wasting so much time on, definitely on ESCs and flight controllers. The only thing that matters on an ESC and on a flight controller is that it has a BMI 270 or an MPU 6000 gyro, and that it has some amount of durability. That's it. Nothing else matters. It's got enough UARTs, whatever they all do nowadays. ESCs, I mean, if it's BL Heli 32 and it doesn't catch on fire, the end. That's it. That's all that matters. Motors, I think motors definitely make a difference because there are different amounts of stator volume and there are different KVs. We need to throw out, I think, this just giving any amount of value to the review that you saw on YouTube where someone flew the motor and said, yeah, this feels great. The hover, it does this better than so-and-so motor, it does that. The motors that you buy should have a different, we should prioritize a completely different set of specs. The raw amount of power that it makes, that's real. You want to buy a motor that makes enough power for you. For sure. Eco motors versus titanium shaft motors. In my experience, the way that I crash, the titanium shaft motors are so much more durable that it grossly offsets the difference in price. So it is literally cheaper for me to run titanium motor shaft motors. So that's like sort of done there. And they're not that much more expensive. And they're lighter. Durability, most of the time it's the motor shaft that lets go, and they're all the same. So I don't think durability is really a way, unless there's like sometimes there's a motor that like everybody is like, yo, don't buy this fucking motor, it blows up, or it just is awful, and that's sometimes valid. But even with that, you got to look at like how many people are buying that motor. If you sell 100,000 motors and somebody else sells 10,000 motors, the 100,000 motors are going to have 10 times as many complaints. And we don't get to see the sales numbers on motors. So reliability stuff is really rough. The weight of the motor, that does matter. Full stop. Whether or not you can feel it in the air, that shit don't matter. A lighter motor is always going to be better. as long as it doesn't get too hot. So heat, that's another big one. We'll talk about it in a second. But the weight of the motor absolutely matters. You've got 4 of the fucking things, and they are all the way out on the ends of the weight of the arms. Even if you can't feel a difference, a lighter motor will allow the PID loop to function better. Full stop. Absolutely no questions asked. The amount of weight on the ends of the arms is momentum, and that momentum, the PID loop needs to speed up and slow down constantly. So the weight of the motor is really important. And then the width of the bell is important, but it's important to you specifically, because if you're very light on the throttle, if you cruise slow, you're going to put less heat into that motor, and you can get away with a smaller, a less wide motor bell. If you fly faster, you're putting more heat into the motor. You need a wider motor bell to keep the motor temperatures under control. If your motor gets too hot, the magnets saturate and they do less work, and you get less power, and that's a problem, because that, not just because you get less power, but because you get less consistency, and that's a real big thing. I do, if you cruise fast, Bob's Imperial motors are really good, and we can. I think there's a real case to be made for the Imperials being wider, being able to cool down, and just always be cooler. Whether or not I can feel it, it does matter, but it kind of doesn't matter, because they're going to be cooler. They're going to be a little bit more consistent. Unfortunately, they're heavier. And that's, man, it's tough. It's tough. That's, and this is also why you are what matters. Some jackass on YouTube like me telling you, reviewing a motor from a flight field perspective, it just doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Like, each one of us kind of has to do the research ourselves, because we all fly completely differently. Maybe you can find a really good pilot that flies exactly like you, and now that review is a little bit more accurate, but I still don't think it means anything, because it's just all placebo. It's just all placebo. Like, that's what Joshua and I saw today. Like, we were looking for things. When you're reviewing something, you are looking for things. And if you see even like a little bit of it, you're like, oh yeah, that's it. That's definitely it. That's it. And then you hold on to that so hard that it completely fucks the rest of the testing. So I'm still, I'm gonna be thinking about this for days, but like, so far what I think is the way to buy motors is to try to find the lightest motor possible that has enough power for you and doesn't get too hot, because a motor that gets too hot becomes inconsistent. Today was very cold out. I mentioned this to Joshua after the testing. Like, I wonder if this would have been different on a summer day. I wonder if the Imperials would have performed better on a really hot day. Today benefited the Zing 2207s for sure, because it was balls ass cold out there. And also, we weren't, we could have fucked the testing up. Maybe what we should have done is take one rig. So for me, it was harder. For Joshua, this is a rig that he's familiar with. This is his build. For me, I've never flown this build before. It's been a long time since I've flown a 5-inch rig more than 605 grams. Maybe what we should have done is I should have flown 10 batteries in a row, the exact same rig, and then we switched to a different rig. And maybe the test should have been, here, Ciotti, fly a whole bunch of batteries in a row, and at some point, I'm going to change the rig on you. But man, that would have taken forever, because I would have had to fly I would have had to fly for like 2 hours straight, right? And that's And after we talked about that, it's like, how the fuck do we do, like, how do you do this? How do you test motors like this? I asked Bob to send me a set of the Imperials. I'm going to have Patrick do a blind test with me, and I'm going to motor scale the Imperials down so that the KV matches up perfectly with my F40 Pro 4s. But here's the problem, that the F40 Pro 4s are drastically less stator volume. So I am almost certain that I'm just going to blast the throttle and be like, yup, that's my rig, or yup, that's the Imperial rig. Too many variables. There are just too many variables. But I think that's a good thing, because I think the lesson is that we should stop. I think we should stop buying motors. I think motors are now so good that if you have a motor from the last 2 years, you should buy as many of them as you possibly can, because at some point that fucker's going to get discontinued. And you should just fly that same motor over and over and over and over again. And if you have 50 extra of those motors, you're going to fly hard as hell, and you're going to get better as a pilot, and you're going to have more fun. I really think that, like, yeah, we should spend a little bit of time trying a couple of different motors and then just stop and focus on propeller. I mean, propellers make a bigger difference for sure. But I even think that the propellers are kind of going the same place. Like, they're so good that I think it's like, spend a little bit of time testing a couple of propellers and then buy a whole bunch of them, but it's fun to test. It's fun to test until you do blind testing, and then you realize what an asshole you are. Right? I don't know. B-Man FPV says, yep, hearing it helps you anticipate things. If you can't hear it, it lags more, I feel. Yeah, right? It's weird. It's interesting. Because it doesn't. Your what happens in the goggles is completely identical. 661 says, I think KV makes a way bigger difference than stator size within a certain size. I on one hand, I think so too. But today, I couldn't tell the difference between two rigs that were over 100 kV different. So, but Edgerton says, there are people who can't tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi. Make that of what you will. Those people are broken. Because that shit's obvious. I'm sorry, but it is absolutely obvious. I'll be able to tell the difference between those 10 times out of 10, guaranteed. 661 says, should have stayed a few days. You could have done your stream from JB Studio. I was thinking about it, but we got a lot going on here. So yeah, it's all good. Marcelo Faxa says, actually, a Joshua Bardwell and CiottiFPV dual stream would be rad. It would. I'm surprised we haven't done it yet. YouTube just did the thing. Here we go. YouTube just did the thing again. YouTube just did the thing again. June Loco says, did you pull up with long ass leads? LALG. What's that mean? RC Reader says, need to go to the extremes. What does a motor that's too small really feel like? What does a motor that's too big feel like? Go from 2004 to 2806. Same prop, same frame. So that's something that we did talk about too after the testing. Joshua on his stream mentioned motor limiting. That was one of the ways that we, like, so what we were talking about is like, what's the gap? Do we have to go from a 2205 to a 2507? We can pretty easily test that with motor limiting. One of us can blindly turn up and down the motor limiting. You know what's interesting is I changed the motor limiting on these tiny lifters on yesterday's stream by 10%, and it was immediately noticeable, but it was immediately noticeable by ear. I changed it by 10%, I took the rig off, I blipped full throttle, and instead of going wee, it went whir. So that's kind of the problem with motor limiting is, yeah, you can hear the difference. We both had foam earplugs in, and then we had big ass earmuffs over them. I could still faintly hear the quad. It worked very well. If we do this again, it's going to be music. We're going to have earbuds in and just music blasting. But even then, is that might invalidate the test. Not being able to hear the rig might throw us off enough as a pilot where we just can't, you know what I'm saying? It's really confusing. Abraham says hypocrisy in the YouTube comments section, inconceivable. License to Drive says you need a rig with hot swap motors or arms with motors. Maybe. I like it doesn't matter. That's really what I'm, because then you can also just buy the motors that you think are the coolest looking or are from the company that's been the most charitable, or the person that's been right? Like, it frees us up to prioritize other things, which is pretty cool. Kevin Sumner says, I want to see someone do this test with you for AIO versus 20x20 stack on a row squeak and control for weight. You don't really have to control for weight. The AIOs weigh pretty much identical to what the 20x20s weigh. Regardless, though, the flight characteristics are only one part of the puzzle as to why AIOs blow goats and 20x20s are the shit. So... What else is happening here, chat? 661 says, in land RC motors, they talk a lot about stator plate thickness, like the thickness of the multiple steel plates stacked up that make up the stator. Yeah, there's another name for that. What's the other name for that? Thickness of the laminations, I think, is what Ryan Harrow calls that. They say more thinner plates is more effective. Yep, I've heard that same thing. I think most of the, if not all of the FPV motor manufacturers use the same laminations, because to do more thinner laminations costs more money. So 661 come on. 661 also says, and also it seems like all FPV motors have the same number of pole counts. I'm surprised there isn't different pole counts available. I think that's an engineering thing. I think Ryan has talked about that before. 14 being like the correct number. The number of, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not going to talk out of my ass on that one. Paul McDonald says, we still love you and appreciate your knowledge. Jason Black says, would there be a difference with motor manufacturers? Absolutely. God knows if we can tell what they are, right? It's... RC Reader says, weight doesn't change with motor limit, though. Right. And that right there is why I think that you should be buying the lightest motor possible. The lightest motor possible that can shed enough heat to be consistent and not overheat. And I mean, motor limiting is nice because we're never going to have a 1600. We're never going to have the same. So we find the appropriate motor for us, right? We're never going to have a 1600, 1700, 1800, 1900, 2000, 2100, 2200, 2300 option available, right? Nowadays, the motor manufacturers are only doing two. They're doing like 1950 kV and like 2400. So motor limiting is nice because you just get the one that's either 6S or 4S for whichever, and then you motor limit it down as low as you possibly can. there is an argument to be made for getting the highest KV possible and motor limiting it way the hell down. I'm actually not in that camp anymore. I think that if you're on 6S, especially because now the motor manufacturers, they're no longer doing 600 kV, 1600 kV for 6S. Now they're doing like 1900, 2000 kV for 6S. We're talking about 5-inch here specifically. And that's a pretty high kV for 6S. And then they're doing 24 or 2500 for 4S, and that's it. So yeah, motor limiting is nice because you can just pull it down as much as possible. So yeah, Kevin Sumner says, ooh, test Nachi versus non-Nachi motors. Joshua and I also talked about that. And I said, I was like, look, I have not found a 5-inch motor that's Nachi in a long time. And even the Nachi 5-inch motors, it doesn't really matter. Like 5-inch is just such a magical size. The props work so well with the motors. The material that these props are made of is the perfect material for 5-inch props. Like the blades of these propellers have their own resonant frequency. And over the years, the prop manufacturers have dialed in the specific plastic to the 5-inch props. That's just one part of the puzzle. Just everything that's been done, all of the R&Ds, not all, but most of the R&D that's been done has been focused on 5-inch rigs. So the notchiness of 5-inch motors really doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of amazing. So yeah. 661 echoes laminations. Marcel Alfaxis says, my 65mm Mobula 6 seems to kill batteries faster than normal, and I bought new ones. Same old whoop, 3-blade, 4-blade, 802, 1600 kV. That's extremely low. AIO VT XRS. That must be on 2S. All right, friends. Notchiness definitely is important with micros for sure. Also, on 5-inch rigs, the cameras that we tend to put, the HD cameras that we tend to put on them, GoPros, are very good at not getting jello when there's vibrations available. Micros are not like that. The cameras that we put on micros are very susceptible to jello. So it's a whole different world with micros. Although, all that being said, my Ripsqueak that's on the Flyfish RC 1404s, those are a somewhat notchy motor, and there's been no jello. I wouldn't call them a notchy motor, but they're not notchy. All the 1404s are somewhat notchy. But yeah. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Jello is also very closely related to the balance of the motors, and the micro motors quality control are pretty shitty. So maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, all these problems I was having with Jello, maybe it was notchiness and them not being balanced all that well, and possibly nowadays the motors are balanced better. Hard to tell. I'm going to wrap this one up 4 whole minutes early. Thanks for hanging out, friends. I'm exhausted. I'm also hungry. I'm going to grab some food and hit it for the night. Was this a good stream? Be honest. Don't be honest. Just say yes. Let me play something you guys haven't seen before. There's a bunch of like found footage that was on the laptop that I brought over. Where is it at? From the Utah Crit. Yeah. Here's some footage from the Utah Criterium bicycle race that they had me out to fly. That's been sitting on the laptop. This is the DJI footage. Oh no, this is just the testing footage, isn't it? Hold on, let me see real quick. Yeah, this is just the Oh, you know what I do have, though? Do I have that building tour footage? Let's see. Yeah, you guys don't want to see this. This is just me testing. But I do have the, from when I did this little building tour of the company that sponsored. Oh, I have that too. Okay. We're not even going to do the building tour. This is a really cool building in Salt Lake City, Utah that I just whooped around. It was super fun. Let me give you guys a little bit of Epidemic Sounds, and yeah. I'll send you off. Hey, go check out the T-Pain edit. Somebody drop the link to the T-Pain edit for me. Send it to all your friends. None of your friends know that T-Pain drifts. This is a good edit for normies. Put it on your Facebook and your Instagram and whatnot. Blow this shit up. T-Pain drifts. He's a fucking hell of a driver too. Dreamy and laid back. That should work. Oh shit. The that's right. The computer, the program that pipes the music into OBS from my desktop has shit the bed. I don't know why it's just not showing up. And I forget what it's even called to try to search for it. It's like Black Magic or... Hold on real quick. Yeah, man, you know... I'm hoping that if I restart the computer, it'll... I haven't restarted the computer in a hot minute. If there's a hot minute, is there a cold minute? These jokes have to stop. That type of joke needs to stop. Did I not save the... Oh my god, why me? Sending audio into OBS Mac. What's the name of the software? Hold on, it's Blackout? It's Blackout. I think it's called Blackout. Is it called Blackout? Black hole, black hole, black hole, black hole, black hole, black hole. Hold on, let me really quickly. Seems like terrible was all over it. Download here. No, just get it. I already did this. Let me see really quickly if I just need to grab it. Oh, it's a download link. Oh, it came through quick. Awesome. Don't save. Hold on. I need to do this anyway, you know? Download. 2 channel, 16 channel, 64 channel. 2 channel it is. Go, 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 go. And open. Continue, continue, agree. Here we go. Install. Do it, do it, do it. Oh, I mistyped that, didn't I? And move to trash. Please work. Please be there. Be there. Be there. Be there. Hey, look at me go. All right, friends. Here's a little bit of something or other with something. Here's something with something else. Although, wait, why is it not? Oh, come on. Is it because I don't have desktop audio on? Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. Love you guys. Be good. See you Whoop Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Later. I'm not ready yet, but it is working. I did see the needles moving. For some reason, it's not playing for me, but I can tell that it's working. That's all that matters. And now the computer is just quit. It's just decided to stop. There it goes. Here you go. Cool building in Salt Lake City. Love you guys. See you Wednesday.